We've already seen the chaos that this man has started. We've already seen the things that he has done in regards to rounding up legal citizens and sending them abroad to places where they do not belong. This man is capable of doing anything, and right now, there is nobody who is going to stop him.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is going to be a fun one. The Liberals are panicking. They are convinced as of the 20th of April that Trump will be issuing an executive order or just an order to declare martial law, and that they're going to lose all their freedoms. They'll have no more freedom of speech online, that everybody's going to have their guns taken away from them, and yada, yada, yada. Why do they think this? Because on January 20th, Trump had signed on day one an executive order declaring a state of emergency at the southern border. In that same executive order, he does have a section that they will review in 90 days, and that the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security, being Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth, will get back to Trump and advise him if he should instate the Insurrection Act. The purpose of the Insurrection Act would be for the border. Now, there's a difference between the Insurrection Act and martial law. Martial law would be total military takeover of the country, right? There would be no more police force. It would be complete military. Yeah, Trump would have a say over freedom of speech and whatnot, but that's complete dictatorship. I know the left thinks that, he's a fascist dictator, but we all kind of know the truth. The difference with the Insurrection Act is the military would be coming in to help police take care of the southern border situation. So why April 20th? That's 90 days. So a lot of liberals think that Trump had this premeditated, and that's been the plan since the beginning. So I'm probably not going to run as many clips as I normally do with all my little mini snippet clips and everything all through. It's going to start to get a little repetitive with the same people, or with people panicking about the same situation and explaining to you as to why. So the clips that are mentioning what I just explained to you guys now, I might play one or two of them to give you guys a little bit more clarity on the whole thing with the executive order. But if it gets repetitive, I'm going to be snagging them out. So I don't know how long this video is going to turn out, but it's always a pleasure when the libs are panicking about something new. Let's get into it.
April 20th, the day that Donald J. Trump is supposed to declare martial law. If Donald J. Trump declares martial law, that means that the military will be taking over police forces. If Trump declares martial law, that means that protesting will be illegal. Expressing your First Amendment rights will be illegal, and he will use the military to enforce that. This is the reason why SCOTUS, under Biden's administration last year, passed a law stating that presidents have full immunity. And under this, we saw that Biden did not abuse those presidential immunity powers. But now we have a man who wants to be a dictator, and he will abuse his power.
No, they do not take an oath not to harm the citizens of the United States. They take an oath to defend the U.S. Constitution against all threats, foreign and domestic. They also swear to obey the orders of their commander-in-chief, the President of the United States, and their officers within the scope of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So yeah, anyone who takes up arms to try to overthrow the government of the United States and threaten the lives of the president as well as other duly elected government officials is going to be designated a domestic terrorist, and the law enforcement apparatus and military are going to do what they always do to terrorists.
Well, there are rumblings all over the media now that on April 20th, Trump will declare martial law, which effectively means the military takes over for the police. Free speech becomes illegal. Protests become illegal. You have to have the permission of the military to do anything. And worse than that, the commander-in-chief, Trump, can do basically anything he wants. Literally.
So Donald Trump, specifically Republicans, want to use the armed forces on citizens legally starting April 20th. And they call this the Insurrection Act. Yay. This is what y'all voted for, right? This is what y'all wanted, right? It's bad enough. It's finna be legal for cops to unalive civilians as they see fit. Armed forces? As in the military? But Kamala is just as evil, right? Kamala would have done the exact same thing, right, guys?
When the Insurrection Act is invoked, every city, every major city is going to be under attack. They will be able to arrest people. Yes, the military will be able to arrest them. Governors and mayors won't be able to say shit. The news stations will only be able to report what they are told to report. And civilians like us are going to be the main targets. Yes, black people. The protests on April 5th were really, really, really peaceful. Why? Because there were no black people leading the charge, especially black women. But if this Insurrection Act is invoked, more than likely our people will be out in those streets. Because now we're living under a dictatorship. And the only thing we can do right now is making sure our representatives know what the fuck is going on. Asking CNN, MSNBC, Midas Touch, and everybody else to start reporting on this shit before it happens. We literally have less than 2 weeks before Trump tries to invoke this shit and may get away with it. That is basically martial law.
At what point have we all had enough? I mean, legitimately, if we trail back to January 20th, Donald Trump signed an executive order that declared a state of emergency on the southern border. He then asked basically all major law enforcement agencies within our federal government to then go investigate how severe this is. All of the heads of those departments are Trump cronies now. We've seen it. We've watched it happen. What do you think that decision is going to be on if he can declare the Insurrection Act on April 20th? I mean, the clock is ticking. He's going to use the protests that we just had. Any violent interaction that barely ties in with anything that could go along with his political agenda, he's going to tie in. These people have made ASMR videos about deportation, about sending people to concentration prisons and camps. They've made AI videos that are generated based on the fact that that land could only be taken through genocide. What do you think is going to happen? And why are you just sitting at home? Why are people just sitting at home? I don't get it.
This guy is genuinely scared of the situation coming up on April 20th. Now, there's only one way that Trump would really ever instill martial law. We'll get into that a little bit later. I'm not going to break that down right now, but you liberals don't really have anything to worry about. If Trump were to enable the Insurrection Act, it would just be for the border. And this is what you guys have to realize, because, you know, you guys are talking about they're not getting their due process, they're not getting their day in court. How many millions of illegal immigrants did Obama send across the border? Did they all get their due process? Did they all have their day in court? You guys didn't complain when it's a Democratic president doing exactly what Trump is doing now. I think it's just scaring you guys because he's doing everything super efficiently, and he's actually doing, yes, as you guys keep saying, he told he was going to do this. Yeah, we know. We know. The illegal immigrant situation needed to be fixed. Again, your country is becoming unsustainable financially, crime-wise, living space-wise. It's just a mess. And you guys want to talk about, Trump is tearing the country apart. No, that's just a few eggshells being cracked to cook some eggs. Everything's going to be okay, guys. You don't need to panic about April 20th. But let's carry forward.
April 20th, 2025, there is a very good possibility that martial law could be enacted in the United States by means of the Insurrection Act of 1807. On Inauguration Day, Donald Trump declared a national emergency at the southern border. In that declaration, there's a line in Section 6, Subpart B, that gives the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security the ability to recommend the usage of the Insurrection Act of 1807, which makes martial law legal in the United States. This president has proven time and time again that he is not afraid to break the law extrajudiciously. So if you want to make sure that martial law is not invoked in the United States, make sure to call your representatives and tell them to investigate the national emergency at the southern border.
All right, everybody. I've heard some rumblings on TikTok and other sources about people being concerned about Donald Trump possibly declaring martial law on April 20th by way of the Insurrection Act of 1807. Apparently, the protests that happened the other day have stirred things up a bit and either scared Trump or infuriated him or both, in addition to other people in his administration. He's asked Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and I believe Kristi Noem, to write up a proposal about this and about what would need to be done to declare martial law and submit that by April 20th. This is being posed as a way to control the southern border and the influx of illegal immigrants, but people that are in the know are very concerned that this is directly in response to the protest that happened on April 5th.
Dumpy Trumpy plans to use the Insurrection Act to regain control of the states, because the protests showed him one thing, and that's we all fucking hate him. We gotta spread the fucking word, because we do not want him doing that. We do not want him doing that. That is his way to circumvent the entirety of the law, even more so than he already does. We don't want him to do that.
It's a trap. Y'all be mindful. Listen, I know we all want to get involved and we want to make change, but I'm starting to see some stuff. And if we ain't smart, I am telling you, they are about to use black and Hispanic people in their marches just as pawns, so this dude can enact more insurrection acts and military law. We got to be careful. If you are attending these marches, you better make sure that you vet who's in charge of these marches and who's getting involved, because you got actors out here. We all know this. And we all know that historically they use black and Hispanic people as batteries, and we always get the short end of the stick. There's going to be more and more opportunities making themselves available to get paid to be at these marches, to do certain things. I'm telling you, be careful. I ain't saying that there's not a time or a place. I'm not saying that we shouldn't exercise our rights. I'm just saying Trump administration is looking for any excuse. Got to be more careful.
Friends, the best we can hope for at this point in time is that the military tells him to pound sand, because he already signed the Insurrection Act. He's just waiting for his 90-day period to be over. He pulls it back out and they tell him yes or no. Well, he's going to do it because it essentially is martial law, and it allows him to retain power. There's no more court. There's no more Congress. There's no one to tell him that he can't do anything anymore.
So there's a lot of talk today about Trump invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807 and declaring martial law on 420. Now, I just went down the rabbit hole and researched, and except for a mention of him using it to protect the borders, I have found no research to qualify that claim whatsoever. There are no dates. There is no mention of martial law. It's just that he said in passing that if he needed to, he was going to enact it to secure the border. But it wasn't part of the executive order. He wasn't signing a bill to enact it. He said he might. But only for the border, not for the people of the United States. So just to calm everybody's nerves for now, I'm not saying that, he won't, but I'm saying my research shows that there's no proof of that at all.
Okay, so what do we have here? A somewhat level-headed liberal. Now, when I always say liberals shouldn't hang around with other liberals because you guys gaslight each other, this is the type of liberal that perhaps you should be hanging around with. Like, sure, he's got a purple beard. It's a little bit weird, but he seems to at least, he's got his bearings together and he's not panicking. The problem is with the liberals and masses, you guys seem to like hysteria and panic and drama and things to bitch and complain about. And this is the newest thing now, is Trump is, going to show his true dictatory self and instill martial law on April 20th. Now, with the way how he signed that executive order, and if recommended by Pete Hegseth, which of course you guys are going to say, well, he's a crony. Of course he's going to do whatever Trump wants. Okay, so I'll give you guys that. Pete Hegseth will go along with what Trump wants. The same thing with Christina. She'll go along with what Trump wants. This is still just the Insurrection Act, which gives him limited emergency powers compared to martial law. He cannot just on his own say, nah, I'm going with martial law. That's not how it works. I'm a Canadian, and I can figure this out with a little bit of research. Again, there will be no martial law on April 20th.
My fellow Americans, I don't think I should have to remind you of this, but I'm going to say it anyways. If you're okay with the government coming for some other people because of the color of their skin, their ethnicity, their religion, their sexual orientation, their gender, then you are okay with dehumanization. If you're okay with dehumanization, eventually you yourself will be dehumanized from some characteristic that you are unable to control. Right now, the United States government said it's okay to continue with the Alien Deportations Act, to remove due process from all of these citizens or all of these residents of the United States, and to deport them to someplace outside of our borders, but not their home country, where they are imprisoned. That is not deportation, that is filtration. That is what Russia did with Ukrainian citizens.
Removing Black Lives Matters was not done by accident. It was done on purpose. They want to piss us off. We are halfway through the 90-day deadline to actually implement the Insurrection Act. The deadline is April 20th. What's the Insurrection Act, you ask? The Insurrection Act empowers the President of the United States to implement military troops out into our streets, aka martial law. Now, the last time this act was actually implemented was back in 1992 during the LA riots. Does that ring a bell, guys? Everything that this man do is calculated. It wasn't a surprise when Biden left the office. He did remind the U.S. troops to uphold their oath. And if you think for 1 second this act is just to pretty much help with the border control, absolutely not. They see people protesting and people are standing up in these meetings. They don't like it. So yes.
If you're afraid of how far this president will go to push his power, we have less than 30 days to find out. That's because on January 20th, the president issued an executive order ordering the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security to issue a joint report stating if he should implement the Insurrection Act. He signed that executive order on January 20th with a 90-day timeline, which puts us at or around April 20th, but it could happen at any time.
Just stay out of it. The best thing you can do is stay home, stay out of the streets, and avoid any interference. Let the authorities handle their operations and don't put yourself or your city in unnecessary danger. Do not try to hide anyone. Harboring individuals being targeted by federal law enforcement is considered aiding and abetting. This carries severe penalties, from 1 year in jail up to life in prison, depending on the circumstances. Some of these individuals may also be classified as national security threats. Just don't risk it. Stay informed. If people in your area resist or escalate, things could spiral into unrest. If that happens, you might have to bug out for your safety. Monitor updates and have a plan, and stay prepared. If we follow these steps, we avoid escalation and the risk of this turning into martial law.
But as we know from experience, Trump does not like people speaking out against him. He does not like people pointing out things that he's doing wrong, things that are messed up that he's doing. So basically, under the Insurrection Act, what could happen now is police and military forces can now take to the streets to break up protests and to ensure that people aren't protesting at all. The people who may not be happy about this, who voted for him, you voted for this. You voted for this to happen. This was your choice. So thanks.
I just want to know if anybody got the same thought process that I have about April 20th and this martial law thing possibly coming to be. So just hold on, hear me out. People have been protesting him, that's nothing new, but why did we choose April as the time for the entire country to do it all at one time? Did y'all just allow yourselves to get set up? Doug rallied the entire country for his winter party in 30 days. He tried to invoke martial law the first time he was in office, and they was like, nah, you're not doing that. And it's cool to have a protest of a couple of few people standing at the front of the White House or maybe in this city over, but the entire country? Like, yeah, we not standing for this. We all gonna be outside. Ain't that a reason to do it? So now when he's like, now I want to do it, he has proof that the country is out of control. And he could be like, yeah, shut it down. Every other post on my FYP is like, beware of April 20th. Like, be careful, it's coming, April 20th. And this is the first time that I've been like, yep, it's coming. And please, for God's sakes, don't go buy all the damn toilet paper.
Now again, look at that. We have back-to-back, somewhat common sense liberals. What she's saying is true. If you guys want to do this whole countrywide protest, why did you guys wait till April if you guys were already all worried about 90 days passing and Trump invoking martial law? Why did you guys wait to bring millions of people out on the streets? This is where things can get a little bit dangerous. And we're, of course, maybe I'm expecting too much, but where the liberals in masses are not thinking. They're not using their brains here. They think that they're standing up and doing the right thing. Like, we've had enough. We got to stand up to fascism. We got to get rid of this Elon guy. But in reality, I think it was 5.2 million people is the number I've seen today that came out on the 5th. Again, great for you guys. There was really no violence. It was actually a mostly peaceful protest. I've seen little skirmishes and whatnot here and there. That's still no reason for Trump to go and actually enable the Insurrection Act. If you guys just dig, because I know you guys have another big rally coming up, you guys are going to do the same thing on April 19th. Kind of strange, the day before. Genius, guys. In the next clip that we're going to be talking on, we're going to explain how April 19th could actually turn out to be a very dangerous day because of the way that the liberal mind works.
Okay, we may be looking at the end of American democracy, and we have 13 days left. Okay, here's my point. Please prepare your family for the worst. The other rumor is that they're going to seize all the guns. So if you have a gun, you want to keep it, you might want to bury it in your backyard. Stock up on food. Please stop spending money you don't have to spend.
I will keep posting this until it goes viral. I don't care. April 20th, Donald Trump and his administration are going to invoke martial law. Okay, that's basically what it is. Martial law into this country, April 20th. It's called the Insurrection Act or some crap like that. It's basically martial law. Get ready.
And last but not least, guess what April 20th is? It's also Hitler's birthday. Kind of ironic, ain't it? We've got God, we've got Hitler, hell, we've got 420, and we have a dictatorship on the way. Make America great again.
Is Donald Trump planning to declare martial law on Hitler's birthday, which is April 20th? There have been rumors that he has been planning this because of all the protests and he can't handle it. That, like, millions of people are raging against him and his administration. What does this mean? This effectively means that the military takes over from the police. Free speech becomes illegal. Protests become illegal. You have to have permission of the military to do anything. Worse than that, the commander-in-chief, Trump, can do basically anything he wants. Anything. Do you know how horrifying that is? To put an insane person in charge who can do anything they want? No checks and balances?
It's Tuesday, April 8th. And today, I called every single one of my elected officials. Every single one. I keep like a contact list of all of them in a note on my phone. And typically on Tuesdays during my lunch break, wherever I float it, usually somewhere between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., I use that time to call them. And I don't really ever call all of them, but today I called all of them. I even recorded some of my calls because I did talk to humans. And I usually call about Medicaid or Social Security, about trans rights, about LGBTQ rights, about immigration, about healthcare access, mental health care access, reproductive rights. Nope, today I told them all, literally told them I'm bumping all of our human rights to the bottom of the hierarchy because we have a president who may very well evoke the Insurrection Act, push for martial law, and create civil war. So what do our human rights matter? If we're in civil war, what do our human rights matter?
On January 20th, 2025, first inaugural day for Donald J. Trump, he filed for the Insurrection Act. He's required to get a report for the Insurrection Act from the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security. He then can use these reports, if they recommend, to move to martial law. Again, he filed this on day one, so that means he knew he was going to file before he got in office. He wasn't going to make an independent assessment. This was a contrived, premeditated action. This action if supported by the Secretary of Defense, which we know he will, and supported by the Homeland Security, which we know he will then be the last day of freedom, true freedom, under a democracy, will be April 19th, 2025. Again, that's the last day, because April 20th, he can declare martial law and set himself up as king. He will not relinquish control once he has it. I have done an AI report on this. It has predicted these outcomes. I've been trying to submit it so everybody can see this is real. This is not a drill. The United States is under attack. Our fundamental way of doing business and our democracy will crumble on April 20th if nothing happens. It's the saddest day, really. I'm actually scared. And I really think that it's important, if you can get clear of the United States, to leave. And if you can't, it's time to fight. I was raised on this. God bless you. May it keep you safe and well. God bless America, the land that I love.
Okay, liberals, listen up now. Any of you libtards that ever, show up in my comments, want to make your little smart-ass comments and whatnot, and now's the time for you guys to listen and actually use your brain. This is exactly who you do not listen to. This guy will get people hurt. You know those videos that go around of like, hey, who's going to do it? Who's up? I can't do it because, I have a hairdressing job or some shit that day. This is the type of guy that thinks he can be a hero. This is the type of guy that will cause martial law. Now, as I just stated in the last segment, Trump cannot just enact martial law because he feels like it. There's got to be proven good reason. Now, for some odd reason, you guys think it's a great idea to do another hands-off protest on the 19th of April, the day before he's capable of actually having the Insurrection Act enabled. And for some reason, you guys think it's, we need to have our voices heard with all of your, Nazi signs and whatnot. Think about it. You're calling Trump the Nazis, yet you guys are walking around with swastikas and Nazis. And how does that make sense? Make that make sense. Now, what I'm thinking is going to happen, and I'm really hoping you guys prove me wrong, is I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of panic. And I think a lot more people than 5.2 million are going to come out because of this. This is only day one of these videos really surfacing. So there's going to be there's another 12 days worth of this for people to get gaslit by woke mind virus infected liberals. Really just stop and think. Just stop and think before you actually listen to these type of people. Because the 19th of April could turn dangerous. I could see panic and hysteria starting up. Just, what should be a peaceful protest that day. I can see, of course, some guys at red hats are going to show up to troll you guys. And I could just see things starting to turn a little ugly. And before you know it, a riot breaks out. And you got to think, you guys are doing a lot of these protests on Capitol grounds. It's starting to sound a little, kind of like January 6th. Let's just hope that something like that doesn't happen, because a lot of liberals have already made it very clear that they've been trying to contact their government officials, and that they're having no luck getting in touch with them and whatnot. And the reason being is your elected officials are not going to take this seriously, no matter even if, Cory Booker and Chuck Schumer are like, oh, Trump's the fascist, he's going to take over the country. They know he's not going to. This is why they're not actually trying to do anything about it. You guys are extremely impressed with Cory Booker standing up and looking like he's on something for about 25 hours and really, what do you call it? Filibustering. He filibustered for nothing. There was no bill or anything he was trying to have passed. He was just trying to plead his case to the world. But, it kind of woke up some of you liberals. You guys really appreciated it. But your elected officials know that Trump has no plans of actually enabling this act. So you guys might get frustrated. and actually try and walk in your Capitol buildings to speak to your elected officials. And things could, possibly get ugly. What I'm trying to warn you guys about is if you guys are going to go do this protest again on April 19th, make sure it's like the 5th. Keep it peaceful, keep it non-violent. Otherwise, with all these threats that have been made online about removing your president, in a very harmful way, and with these protests showing up, millions of you angry on the street, worried that, martial law is coming the next day, that gives them every reason to actually, enable martial law. So use your guys' brains and just don't be stupid that day. All right, guys, that's it for this video. As usual, I do have one more clip for you guys. If you guys are new to the channel and you like this type of content, please consider subscribing, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Have a good one, everybody.
Obviously, we're witnessing the end of the American empire. Anybody with the sense that God gave a fucking slime mold would know that. What I don't get, what I'm not comprehending, is the fact that there are people who aren't sure what they're going to do when martial law is implemented, aren't sure what they're going to do when the government hands down restrictions on things like curfew and protests and everything else. Crime. That's what you're going to do. You're going to do crime. You are going to cease giving a fuck what is legal and illegal, and you're going to do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. You're going to attend illegal democratic protests, and you're going to hide vulnerable, hunted people in your home, and you're going to tell the government to whatever capacity you can to jump up its own ass and die. Or you're going to capitulate. You're going to comply. You're going to give up the person hiding in your basement. You're going to stay home when they tell you to, and you're going to tell everybody in the future generations that you were just following orders. And yes, you could be fined, you could be tortured, sanctioned, isolated, executed. But I could not live with myself if I did not try, and I don't know how any of you could. So what are we going to do when riots break out? We're going to remove riot cops from the census. We're going to relieve banks and government buildings of their status as standing structures, preferably by means of fire. We're going to harbor fugitives, we're going to print zines that are illegal, and we're going to go to demonstrations that prove that there are more of us than there are of them, and if they don't like it, they can fucking do something about it. Or we're going to be like some of y'all's grandma who can't fully explain why they're German but now live in Argentina, but it's not a fun story. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but the word illegal doesn't mean shit. They can't make you do or not do a thing without a fucking gun to your head. Never forget that. Even if they do have a gun to your head, I don't care to know anybody who wouldn't dare them to pull the fucking trigger. I don't know anyone who would. Resistance is about to get a lot harder than wearing some stupid hat and waving a sign. So pick your side and sit on it. We're gonna be here a while.